Hi there, friends. Welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny. We're gardening here in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7, where it is currently 45 degrees Fahrenheit with a wind chill of 38 degrees Fahrenheit on April 22nd. It's a little chillier than I would love it to be, but who's complaining? Not me. There are still things to enjoy and to appreciate out here in our garden. So today I wanted to take a walk around and look at the plants that I own that are currently awaiting planting and see if we can make some progress. So come along with me and let's get some things into the ground. So it's not like we've been lazy around here or anything. By my count, I estimate we have planted 54 shrubs in this yard. Some of them were transplanted from other places, but most of them, I think about 48 of them, have been purchased and planted in this yard in the last few weeks. So it's not like I've been a slacker or anything, but I do still have quite a few things that I need to get into the ground. Let's take a look. I have plants in 3 different piles in my backyard. Let me show you the first one here up by the back. Here it is. This pile of plants consists of 2 mail order fairy rose plants. I have planted 1 in the ground so far, but those 2 need to get in. And then this shrub in this pot is an Eastern snowball viburnum. And so this collection of plants mostly are my winter sowing projects combined with some of my basement seeds and some mail order things. Over here on this side, I have more things. These are mostly bulbs or tubers that I potted up to get a jump start on the season. So, except right here I have 2 clematis that I purchased a few weeks ago at Glendon Gardens. I need to get those in the ground because they are growing so big. They're climbing all over the azalea, and that's going to possibly hurt them or break their stems when I take them off of there. So let me get those in the ground soon. My third and final spot where I have things waiting to be planted is down here on the driveway. I have all of my basement, or the rest of my basement seedlings, and a couple of things that I purchased the other day. I forgot to mention I still have 3 boxwoods in their containers that need to get into the ground. There's one here, and what's holding me up here is that I need to take out all this goldenrod before I can put in the boxwood. Do I really need to take it all out? Maybe I could do that in 2 different steps. I could plant the boxwood and take the goldenrod out later. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. And then there's another boxwood down this way on the right in its pot waiting to be planted somewhere, and one more right over here. So that is also on the list. I just opened the garage door to get my tools out for planting, and oh my gosh, it's like so warm in here. It's probably 55 degrees, but outside it's like 44 and cold wind. It is so pleasant in here in the garage. Is there a job that I could be doing in the garage? No, I gotta get things planted. To show you our soil and what we've been working with here at Harmony Hills Home and Garden for the last 5 growing seasons. Let me give you a look. Can you see in that hole there's a lot of really good looking nice brown soil, but then underneath it is just hard orange clay. See that? It's like, I don't know, roughly 6 inches of good brown rich soil, and then down below it's just clay. And so this is a result of 5 years of adding compost and shredded hardwood mulch to this flower bed. When we first arrived at this property in the fall of 2015, the entire flower bed from the top level all the way down was that clay, and you can see the orange clay is still in, you know, when we dig in, we're still pulling up clay that's mixed in with the good soil. But after 5 summer seasons of 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20 of adding compost and adding shredded hardwood mulch, which is a natural product, we now have at least 5 or 6 inches of great looking topsoil here in this bed. So this is why I am such a proponent of adding compost into your planting holes, adding compost as a top dressing onto established beds, and using shredded hardwood mulch. It really, really works to help improve your soil. Well, there's one good thing about cicadas, and that is they aerate the clay soil. Okay, I put one of the fairy roses here on the right side of the house over in front of the living room window. Now, right beside it, there are some daylilies. Honestly, these daylilies have never bloomed, and the reason is because the deer every year come by and eat them. So these need to be moved to the backyard inside the fence in some thin attempt to keep the deer off of them. 2 clumps of them here. This is, let's see, it's a yellow knockout rose. I really don't like this plant. I think it's going to come out this year, maybe. And that's a red knockout rose, and this is another yellow knockout rose. I really don't care for them, and so I think they're going to come out. The only problem is I also want to take out these crepe myrtle shrubs. They're the dwarf varieties that stay low, they don't grow into trees. And if I take those out and I take the roses out, then I've got this huge empty space, and that is just another space into which I should be planting things. But that means buying more plants. And with the backyard renovation this year, I'm not convinced that my budget can withstand redoing this garden as well as the back. So what I might be doing is keeping these knockouts for one more season, letting this fairy rose grow up and eventually take over the rose roll here in the front yard on this side. I might find some things that I already own and rearrange things in this bed to make it a little bit more visually pleasing. Right now it feels crowded in some spots and empty in other spots, and I just really don't like it. I also don't like the shape of the bed, but that's, again, a project for another time, probably not this year, or maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But for now, I got the fairy rose in there, and she'll be happy there. And so I just need to get it watered in. And also, just as a point of reference, the other one is over here. So they eventually will be symmetric planting. You've got I forget the particular variety of this, but it's a gold lace leaf false cypress. And then you've got the fairy rose right there. And same thing on this side. You got the same false cypress and then the fairy rose over there. So it'll be symmetric. Eventually this front yard is going to look the way I want it. Right now it looks passable. I mean, no one's complaining about it, but it doesn't look how I want. So you know how that is, right? Okay, anyway. So those are in. This is a section of our yard that I hardly ever talk about. This is in our front yard on the north side of our property boundary. That old black cherry tree there is really old and tall and really lovely. And then we have an old hedge of some kind that is really overgrown and kind of weedy and not very beautiful, but it does the trick for screening of passersby. And then as we move toward our neighbors on our immediate north side, we have this shared area. Those stumps that you see are old yews. They belong to our neighbor, and they were really tall and overgrown a few years ago, and so they cut them back with a hard prune, thinking that maybe they would return and flush out with new green growth. Well, that was, I think, 2 or 3 seasons ago, and you can see that they haven't really recovered. I honestly don't know if they plan to replace them or not, but they don't belong to us. Before we decided to do the backyard renovation, I had talked about doing a front yard renovation in this section, and we just didn't get to it, and the backyard came first this year. So eventually I would love to have the grass edge be like this around this tree and then curve down to the front walk, kind of in an oval, all the way up this way and then around here, and then it would join over here roughly right there. So that's my long-term vision for this, and then I would have about 6 or 8 feet worth right here of planting space, and I was thinking about putting skip laurels along here. That might be a really nice plan. That might happen this fall, it might not. But in the meantime, I have this one Eastern snowball viburnum. It's different from the Chinese snowball viburnum that I have in the backyard. Slightly different. It's very similar though. And I think I'm going to put it right here at the end of this row of shrubs. These shrubs belong to us, and in the long run, you know, in 5 years they won't be here, but I don't have a plan for them yet. So for now, I think I'll plant this right here, and then it'll grow up into a nice big, probably 10 by 10 or maybe even 15 by 15, nice big viburnum shrub right there. And so that would be a good place if we do put skipper laurels in along here. It would be fine. Or if we do something else, it would be fine to be a nice anchor for an eventual flower bed or something like that. So I think all things considered, current looks and future looks, that's a pretty decent spot for it. Okay, this has been a productive afternoon. I got 3 shrubs planted in here, 2 green mountain boxwoods, 1 large one over there and 1 small one right here. And I got the 1 leftover green velvet planted over by the post. I also got all of the goldenrod taken out of here. I think I got it all, but maybe you saw how shallow rooted it was. So even if I didn't get it all, I'll be able to pull out any that pop up because they're really shallow, and this soil right here is really loose right now. And then I got the 2 fairy roses out front and the 1 Eastern snowball viburnum out there. So that's 6 shrubs in the ground today. Yes, that's the last of the shrubs in my little mini nursery that I've got going on here. Next, clematis. 2 clematis I want to get in the ground today. One of them's going to go out on the front lamppost at the front of our property, and then the other one, I'm not exactly sure where it's going. Let's figure it out. Okay, I have decided to put the Jackmanii clematis right here on this front post. So what I have done to prepare is I've taken some nylon netting and I've made just a very narrow section of it, about a foot wide, and then I hung it on here and tied it to itself along the back. And so all around this pole there's this netting. It won't decompose, it will stay here until I take it down, and the clematis can use it to hold on. Its little tendrils can wrap right around it, and then it won't slide down the pole. If you didn't have something like a string or a lattice or something for the clematis to grab onto, it wouldn't be able to really hold itself up here very well. So I'm going to plant the root ball of this on the back side of the pole, and then I'm going to wrap the long stem of it up around the pole and get it to grab on to this netting. I'm going to use my normal planting methods of digging my hole out, putting in some compost, putting in some biotone, and then covering up the plant to the level of the soil in the pot. The thing about planting clematis is that the stems are easily breakable. One time I was putting a clematis in this exact spot, and while I was planting it, I broke the stem off right at the base, and I was just so crushed. What a pun. Yeah, well, and it did grow eventually, but it took a really long time to establish because it had lost all of the foliage on top. So I'm going to take super care to not have that happen today. There is some wind. I'm a little bit worried about it, but I think I'll be able to make it work. I don't know if you can see, but this native soil is still just pure clay out here. There's not been much improvement on this soil at all. Alright, I've got the clematis in the ground. I was successful in not breaking the stem of it. I'm actually going to go get a little bit of fencing maybe, or some sort of thing to put around that stem because it's really susceptible to actually accidentally kicking it or accidentally hitting it with a lawn tool or a shovel handle or something. If I was a little bit smarter, I would have planted it closer to the post to prevent that kind of problem, but I think it's going to be okay right there. The other thing about clematis, they like to have their heads in the sun and their feet in the shade, and this is a full sun area right here at the front of the front yard. So I will be planting annuals in here. I also have 2 cone flowers in here, and the sun sets this way. So the post itself will shade the roots a little bit, but I will also be putting other plant material in here, around here, to shade these roots. And if you don't do that, you could also just cover it with a deep mulch or stones or bricks or just something to keep the soil from getting super hot. You know what, the more I look at this, the more I want to protect that stem right now. So I'm actually going to move the purple cone flowers to be on either side of it, and I think that will make me feel better in the short term. These cone flowers are Prairie Splendor, deep rose color. Okay, so I've got the clematis in the ground. I put the 2 cone flowers on either side of it to help shade the roots and protect that stem from getting accidentally knocked and broken. So yeah, this is great. I'll just get it some water on it and it will be good to go. Okay folks, I was on my break here thinking about what else I'm going to plant today. The wind won't stop. The chimes are going strong today. It is cold. I'm out here wrapped up in a blanket, drinking my coffee in the middle of the afternoon. This is so not like me. So I am done planting for the day. I'm just going to clean up my stuff and pack it in because it is, I think, I checked the weather. It's like 48 degrees, but the wind chill is 42. I'm sorry. I've been out all day. That's enough for me. So in we go. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm happy I got 6 of my shrubs all in the ground today and 1 of the clematis. I was going to do the second one, but I couldn't decide on a spot and I just got cold. So thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day and I hope you'll come back again soon. Bye-bye.